Y'all know me, know what I do for a living. First off, bonus points to whoever can name that reference at the beginning. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and a day of experimentation. If you follow my channel, you know I've done this a few times with paints and specifically metallics, but today I'm doing it for a little bit different reason. If you've been following lately and you saw my move video, the big move, you'll know that my circumstances have changed somewhat and that I am now in more confined quarters with no proper way to ventilate toxic smelling stuff like lacquer based paints, which is normally what I prefer. So because of that, and because of some products on the market these days that kind of intrigued me, now's as good a time as any, and I'm going to get back into water-based acrylic paints. Today I'm going to be working with metallics. Part of the reason for that is that I want to test the colors on some plastic, test some durability, and because I like to have a reference for my metallic colors. Sometimes it's hard to tell just looking at the bottle, you know, aluminum, silver, etc., the kind of sheen and the kind of tone it has. So I'll be experimenting with laying this stuff down, and I will also be marking each one so I know what I'm looking at. Now, primarily I'll be working with Vallejo metal color. These are just representative of what I'm going to be using because I've got aluminum, silver, and I also have exhaust manifold, gunmetal gray, and steel. You can also see I have a bottle of Vallejo chrome metallic. I just want to see how chrome that actually is. And the new set of paints that I'm really dying to try out, Ammo by MIG Atom metal acrylic color. This one is gunmetal as well, so we'll see how that looks in comparison. One more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use gloss black Vallejo primer, which I'm not a real big fan of Vallejo primers, but hey, we've got to learn to work with this stuff, and some Stynylrez black primer, just regular black, to see how much of a difference there actually is between the sheen using gloss black, as many recommend, and just regular black. My airbrush today, I will be using my Iwata HPM2 single action. This is the one I like to use for metallics. I believe it has a 0.35 needle nozzle combo. And it has always been a really good, durable airbrush. Now hopefully the metallic flakes on these won't be too big, but we'll see, and that'll be just part of the experimentation process. As a bit of a disclaimer, this is not my first time using Vallejo metal color. I used to use it quite extensively when I got back into the hobby back in 2013 to 2015, something like that. I discovered these and I used them on quite a few aircraft kits, and I really did like them. They seem to lay down well, they're very durable, they take decals well, and all that kind of stuff. But I need to refamiliarize myself, so I figured I'd do this video so we could all check it out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some primer. Alright, the first thing I did is I went ahead and used some 91% isopropyl alcohol and wipe this down really well in case there are any contaminants on there. So I'm going to load up my airbrush. I'm not going to demonstrate this. You're just going to see the after effects of it. But I'm going to load up my airbrush with my black Stynylrez primer that I have in this handy little drop bottle here. But just so as you know, right there, good old Stynylrez. I used to use it quite a bit back in the old days of water-based acrylics, and it worked fine. But like I said, I have to relearn this stuff. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to spray it down on one half. I may even try and delineate it with some tape. And then we'll test the tape whenever I do the gloss and see if it pulls the Stynylrez up. So we'll kind of do two things at once there. Here we go. I almost forgot to tell you, for my primer, I'm using my Badger 105 Patriot. Not the best airbrush in the world, but it works pretty good, especially for this kind of stuff. And it's proven to be quite effective and quite durable. Okay, for those who care, my pressure that I'm using for all this stuff, at least for the primers thus far, is 17 psi. And I'm using a CO2 cylinder. I'm not using a compressor. So we've got the gloss on here, and we've got the regular Stynylrez. So let's peel this off and see. Yeah, Stynylrez is really tough. And I literally sprayed that, took enough time to clean my airbrush so I could spray the gloss, and then I stuck the tape on it. And I left it. I didn't detack it or anything like that. And I left it on there while I loaded up the airbrush, sprayed the gloss on here, and then cleaned my airbrush again. So the Stynylrez, you know, some people have trouble with it, and I seem to have trouble with black, but it is good primer. So we got that taken care of. So now we can start thinking about doing some of this, but I am going to let this gloss dry a little bit longer. So I'm going to let it sit for a bit. Then we'll come back and start using some of this stuff. And I will probably start with the Vallejo Chrome. It's the one I'm most curious about. Okay, so here is what we have. Let's do this, and we'll take a look. So I made this little illustration here so I'll know how to label it later. But we have the Stynylrez primer on this side, the Vallejo gloss on this side. And as you can see, hopefully in this video, that there is a difference in specularity. The gloss does make a difference. Now I've seen people online say it doesn't make a difference. Proof's right here, and I sprayed just straight across. I didn't do this separate and that separate, so you know, anomalies or anything. I sprayed it right across. The delineating line you can see quite clearly right there. Now as far as the colors, we've got the Vallejo Chrome. Now I will bring this up. Excuse me. Vallejo Metal color does have a chrome, but I have not been able to find it anywhere. Everywhere I look, they're out of stock, so I don't know what the deal is. So on a whim, I thought I would try this. It's not bad. You can see that it's lighter in tone than the rest of these, so you know, and it is very smooth. Then the next one we have the aluminum, which I think looks really good. Then we have the silver, and again, the stuff on the gloss just looks way better. We have steel, which looks really nice. Then we have exhaust manifold and gunmetal, and those are all three Vallejo Metal color. Now, especially between the steel and the exhaust manifold, there's not a whole lot of difference. I can see it here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it on camera, maybe so. Same with the gunmetal gray. They're just between those three, not a whole lot of difference, but there is a difference. Now, the Ammo by MiG Atom metal acrylic color is this one on the end here, and to me that is the one that has the least desirable results. Even on the gloss, it looks kind of dull. I mean, it feels really smooth, but it just seems as if the metal particles, the metal flake inside of here, is not as finely ground as in the Vallejo metal color. So that one there, I'm not seeing much use for that. It came with a set that I bought, which was a tank set. Now it might be good for like tracks or something like that, since it's going to get weathered and everything anyway. But that's the whole thing about that metal. It seems kind of dull, not as specular as the others. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, and that's just to see how a finish will look over top of this, say, post decals. I'm going to be using the All-Clad 2 Aqua Gloss Clear. Now that says lacquer. This isn't a lacquer. This is a water-based, water-soluble clear. Aqua Gloss Clear. I'm going to spray that right in the middle here. Let that dry, and then we'll make that comparison. Quick note for this, I'm going to be using my single action Pache H with the, I think it's a 0.3 something tip and nozzle. All right, so here we go. So right here, and I'm sure you can see it on the camera there, but I got some good shine. Now it's not the smoothest. It is smoother on this end here. I wasn't real careful spraying it on, and I should have been, but with a nice little bit wetter coat, it would have probably self-leveled much better. But you can see that the shininess is really nice. So with that in mind, that Vallejo chrome would make, which would be this one here, that would make a nice bare metal finish for an aircraft. The aluminum would as well. It's just in certain, when you tilt it a certain way, it's a bit darker. So I'm thinking this one right here, that would be the way to go. Now I do want to get my hands on some of the Vallejo metal color chrome as opposed just to the Model Air, but like I said, everybody's out of it and I can't find it anywhere. But as you can see, even on the Stynylrez primer, it's still a little bit duller than this one. Shinier than this, but a little bit duller than this one. This one brings out the lighter tones of that particular paint. So that's a very viable option right there. So anyway, that is that. So let me let this sit for a minute. I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, one last thing here real quick, like before I wrap this up. I resprayed this at the insistence of a friend of mine because it wasn't shiny enough, because I didn't take my time with the clear. Well, I did this time and it's much better. So anyway, all the rest of the results still stand. So let's wrap this up. And there you have it, the conclusion of my little experiment with water-based metal colors. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and if you haven't subscribed already, maybe hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the like button so Mr. Algorithm will give me some props and put me out there so people can actually see what I've done. And yeah, if you have any questions, hints, tips, concerns, any thing you'd like to say, put them in the comments section down below. I'd really like to hear from you. So That's it for now for Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and until next time, I will see you all later.